Hi everyone, my name's Sarah. I'm from the Green Register. Thank you for joining us at today's Twilight talk with No More Gas. In a moment, I'll just be handing over to David, but before I do that, I'll just outline a few housekeeping items. So microphones, please could you just keep them muted during the presentation, just so that we don't pick up any background noise or anything else, because it can be quite distracting for people trying to listen. Video, it's up to you whether you leave it on or off. Sometimes it's quite nice for our speakers to see who's listening and see your faces, but it's completely up to you. There'll be a point in the presentation for question and answers, so we'll let you know when that happens. If you use your digital hand raise, which is along the bottom of your screen, to do that, if you've got a question you want to ask, and we'll call on you, and if you just unmute and ask your question, but we'll let you know when we get to that section. If you have any technical issues tonight, send me a message in the chat and I will do what I can to help. Sometimes if there's a connection issue, turning your video off can improve the connection, but anything more than that, just give me a message and we'll see what we can do. After the session today, we'll be sending out a feedback form. I know that everybody sends out feedback forms and asks for feedback these days, but it is really helpful for us to know what you enjoyed about the session, what you'd like to see more of, and just so that we can keep improving our sessions as we go forward. We'll also be sending out a copy of the speaker presentation, the chat transcript, and a recording of this video as well. If you could just make sure that your Zoom name matches the name that you booked with, so that my wonderful colleague Elaine can mark you off as you go. And yeah, other than that, enjoy the session. And I will hand you over to our fantastic speaker. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Sarah. Hello, everyone. So my name is Davide, and I'll just present immediately without wasting too much time. So today we're going to talk about No More Gas, which is a website and a platform that we have created. Let me just show the full screen. I hope you can see the screen. So today I will discuss No More Gas, which is this tool we've created to help people and designers to find alternatives to gas boilers. I'll introduce a little bit who we are. We're an architecture practice called Unagru, and we kind of work both architecture and urbanism, and I think that's kind of a little bit of a base, a reason why we decided to research No More Gas. Then I'll explain why we've started No More Gas, and then I'll make kind of an outline of the energy landscape and how I think that the changing energy landscape is affecting and will affect kind of the orthodoxy around the retrofitting. And at that point, I'll take a break so that I can take a few questions and we can have a conversation, of course. And then we can resume the presentation where I'll show what technologies No More Gas kind of has researched and showcases, how the platform works, and how this changing landscape can then become a basis for new policies and kind of what we call geographies. Energy geographies, where different areas of the world have different energy policies and therefore different physical setups and architectural setups. Okay, so this is us. Actually, there's two more now, but yeah, this is us very recently, and so we, of course, are an architecture practice based in East London. We work mostly on small residential projects, but at the same time we have kind of a passion for urbanism, for policy and sustainability, and we find, of course, at least theoretically, we think that, of course, several small projects compounded may have an effect. So we're interested in the effect of small changes, small interventions. And therefore, while we work on very single particular cases, our eyes are always open and attentive to policy and to changes in technology. So these are some of our houses, and these are some of our kind of urbanism and our proposals. And so as part of our kind of passion for architecture is sustainability. We are concerned about climate change, of course. And so we spend some of our time on research and doing things that we like and we think are good. And Nomoregas is one of these things that we did now 18 months ago. 18 months ago. So why and how? Well, at the beginning, it was the war in Ukraine. I personally felt a bit kind of helpless and useless facing this kind of aggression, and something that kind of was really, of course, troubling me. And so being a designer and also a kind of researcher with some kind of academic experience in my past, I decided to just try and kind of research and provide information to help in some way reduce our reliance on Russian gas. Now you'll see from this image that the UK does not have a massive reliance of Russian gas. But it is a European, it is and it was a European problem, and so at the time it felt that the best way to kind of help against the war was to find alternatives to the use of gas. Then this kind of initial intuition, let's say, became a much more kind of formal and in-depth research that brought us to investigate instead the general output of greenhouse gases in the UK, the role of gas, whether it's Russian or not. So we identified this topic at the intersection between climate change and geopolitics to be actually very interesting beyond the specific moment. And this is because what the data says is that gas boilers are probably going to be, in the medium to near future, the biggest obstacle to achieving net zero, especially in the residential and in the business sectors, because it's probably the hardest problem to solve. In fact, today 95% of the UK homes are centrally heated. There are 26 million gas boilers, and which combined emit more greenhouse gases than all power plants together. Gas is also a health hazard, both indoors and in the cities, as combined, because the combined effect of so many boilers affects air quality. And there's, of course, so many boilers that a lot have to be replaced. Not exactly, but about 1.7 million boilers are replaced every year. That's about 1 every 8 minutes. And unfortunately, of those, only 35,000 are replaced with heat pumps. The pace of replacement is so slow; it would take hundreds of years to get there. So clearly, something is wrong with policies surrounding boilers. But if we don't tackle this issue, then the greenhouse emissions from the residential sector and from the business sector will hardly reduce quickly enough. So where does the research come in? The recognition of the obstacle to replacing gas boilers is twofold. On one hand, there is, of course, economics and policies. On the other hand, there is kind of lack of technology or knowledge of technology. If the best alternative to a gas boiler is a heat pump, which is essentially renewable energy. But if we go and investigate all the case studies of the UK built environment, of course, there are many cases where a heat pump is either too expensive, too invasive, too difficult. There's not enough open space, etc. So we need no more gas comes as a recognition that we need to find more alternatives to gas boilers that are not just heat pumps and are not just direct electrics. And so we went to among the sources of our kind of research is this Carbon Trust report on the policies that could help transition away from gas boilers and towards heat pumps. This was the focus of that report published by the Carbon Trust for the GLA. And that report showed that in several cases, especially small leaky houses and flats, installing heat pumps was either not viable at all or too expensive from a carbon point of view, which means the extent of the retrofit required to install a heat pump entailed so much investment in carbon dioxide at the beginning that it would take too long for it to be recouped, to pay back. And this told us that basically connecting retrofit with the energy engines, which is boilers, sometimes is not the best idea. Because, as we said before, there's 1.7 million boilers replaced every year. We cannot imagine that to replace each one with an electric alternative, we have to retrofit the house or deeply retrofit the house. So we're talking now about decoupling deep retrofit from replacing heat engines to have more and more opportunities to replace the heat engines even before the retrofit. And one more reason to be careful about connecting heat engines and retrofit is that in old buildings, retrofits have to be very, very accurate and careful because there's several risks of kind of ruining old buildings. And there's no need for me to explain this in this context because, of course, we all know, having attended Green Register seminars in the past. But suffice to say that, of course, there are several institutions and bodies that help us understand the complexity of retrofitting old buildings. And in many cases, at least in our work, we tend to suggest to our clients to be very, very careful and to select accurately the best interventions on old buildings. And in fact, retrofits can go awfully wrong, even with the best intentions sometimes. Now the main reason why gas boilers have been so popular, apart from technology, and then have remained popular in the last few years, is that, I mean, the orthodoxy said that, of course, the price of gas is lower than the price of electricity. And this of course has been historically true, but we've also seen with the war, for example, how the price of gas can escalate, and therefore there's a volatility there that creates a degree of risk of relying entirely on gas. Another part of the orthodoxy said that to switch from gas to direct electric heating would entail a higher output of carbon dioxide. So until, say, 10 years ago, to install a to replace a gas boiler with direct electric heating, say electric radiators, would have caused more emissions of carbon dioxide because the electricity required to heat a space was generated with gas-fired power plants, and the inefficiency of the electric heater made it so that the same amount of heating was causing more carbon dioxide. Now this has changed, and this is changing. This again is taken from the same report, and it shows how, of course, in time, with the decarbonization of the grid, of the UK grid in particular, that's decarbonizing very quickly. The blue line, which is direct heating, direct electric heating, shows the amount of carbon dioxide required per energy unit. And as you can see, around 2024, it's becoming almost the same as the boiler there's gas boilers, which are the black line. And of course, heat pumps are a lot better. Okay, but what we're saying here is that in the coming years, any form of heating that's electric, even direct electric, which is kind of the least efficient, will be less carbon intensive than a gas boiler. And therefore, several options that seem to be unsustainable in the past are actually more and more sustainable, actually more and more efficient from a carbon dioxide point of view in the future. And given that the lifetime of a boiler is about 10, 15, 20 years, even 10, 5, 6 years ago, it would have been wiser to install direct electric heating from a purely carbon, from a pure carbon footprint standpoint. So yeah, a lot of information. I hope I haven't gone too quickly. I would stop here for some questions if there are any. No? So if there are no questions, I can just carry on. Yeah, yeah, fantastic. So to recap, the energy grid is decarbonizing, and therefore several options that alternatives to gas boilers have become more suitable from a carbon dioxide point of view, and and on the other hand, the replacement of the gas boilers of gas boilers in the UK is happening too slowly, and this is because in the main alternative to gas boilers, which is a heat pump, only works in certain cases, and now it has wonderful incentives, and therefore in most of our projects we that work for kind of affluent, generally affluent people, we almost always install heat pumps. But several cases like flats or more leaky buildings that require more retrofit, major retrofit work, the heat pump may not be the best solution, and we need alternatives. Otherwise, we will, every time in one of these properties, a boiler needs to be replaced. Unless there are alternatives, it will be replaced with a new boiler that will stay there for 15 more years. This happens every 8 minutes. Now, no more gas. Further on this point, recently we attended another seminar here at the Green Register. This one was led by the AECB, and the AECB has in fact just introduced a new standard that's called Carbon Light, and I don't have a way of verifying this data, but this comes from them, so I trust it. In their projections, the Carbon Light retrofit standard is more efficient even than an Enerfit. Now, what is the Carbon Light? The Carbon Light is a light intervention on the fabric that is just enough to bring it to a level where it can install a heat pump in that case. So it's not exactly what we are talking about for normal gas, because normal gas is not always and only about heat pumps. But it's a demonstration that by focusing mostly on the heat engine and on kind of a few pragmatic and strategic interventions on the fabric, we reduce the amount of carbon dioxide we invest at the beginning, carbon dioxide and money and complexity, and instead, and we obtain really, really good results from reduction of our footprint. Now, if the grid is decarbonizing, it also means that there is more intermittence. There are several other issues with the grid. And with these issues come questions about the cost of power. So of course, the power is more expensive when there's high use, especially with solar and wind. So among the technologies that we have kind of sought for at Nomoregas were the different forms of heat batteries. Furthermore, apologies. There are also issues with the way the grid in the UK is built, where most of the production from wind comes from the north, and most of the consumption is in the south, and there are not enough connections between north and south. In any case, so and this means that there's more and more need for ways of storing energy, whether it's electric energy or simply heat. So, and among the technologies that we have kind of promoted and we incorporated in Nomoregas are heat batteries. This is one of them, but there are now more and more coming onto the market. And these are machines that are connected to the internet, so they figure out the costs of energy during the day, during the 24 hours. They charge up with heat when the energy is cheaper, and then they like a big effectively a heat battery, like a big warm concrete stone block. It will heat water when needed. And so these products not only help, of course, are not gas boilers, therefore are electrically charged, but they are also they could also help ease the peaks and troughs of energy production, because they of course charge when there's an excess of energy and discharge when there is an excess of demand. Another version of this heat battery is this product called the Mixergy tank, which I think, again, at the Green Register, it's quite well known. In this case, it's a pressurized hot water cylinder that again is connected to the internet and charges when there is the least demand, if possible, when the cost is lower, and also uses less energy because it heats the water only to the extent that is needed. And then and instead this other technology, which is infrared heating, I think I saw someone from Energy Carbon in the list of delegates. In this case, this is sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
How long have I been muted for?
Oh, only I think a couple of seconds, not very long.
Okay, sorry. Okay, so then, okay, if we electrify the grid, of course, we have to try and use the least possible amount of energy. We don't want to have to kind of bulk up too much the grid. So any form of direct electric heating that is more efficient than the electric radiator is welcome. And this that we're showing here is very popular among our affluent clients. Again, it's an infrared heating panel that's it's a fleece really that's hidden behind the plaster and is incredibly comfortable. It's superb. So that it is one form of electric heating that is much more efficient than direct electric and also looks great. And so this also is a solution. In our office, we have of course a much lower budget. Instead of this infrared that is hidden into the plaster, we have visible panels, which also are very, very comfortable. So we've tested the system, the technology ourselves, and we love it. So finally, here's Nomoregas. So finally, yeah, we have gathered all this information, and what do we do with it? Well, we decided to build a very simple website. This one's built with Wix, with like extremely simple website that explains the issues. And then we thought that the best thing we could do was to create a selector where people or professionals could find the best solutions for their specific case. So people get to choose between a house, a flat, or a garden flat. And then based on the size and whether they are planning to refurbish their home or not, different solutions will come up. And so in one case, you have solutions like these, which are then explained more in detail. So when there is open space, our preferred option is always a heat pump. of course, because that's we think that that's the best technology, it's the most efficient. But when there are other constraints, like the building is too leaky, there's no space, there's not a space for external unit, then we have to become more creative, and that's where heat batteries, heat batteries, infrared, or hot water cylinders, or a combination of the three, depending on the size, will kick in. And we simply have links to different material, to different products, and of course, there's no commercial advantage in this. It's just a tool for people, and actually, we just try to keep it up to date, to try to spend some time on it, but we have no relationship to any of the companies or products that we advise to check on the website. We just hope that this can be a useful tool for people. So, for example, 110 or 120 square meter flat with no auto space or no place to put an external unit could install a heat battery. 160 maybe requires help with a cylinder, or in some cases, it's better to have infrared, various forms of infrared, because infrared is really good at intermittent heating. So depending on the case study, we tried to kind of give a wide range of options, and we invite people to, of course, to make their own research and to investigate further, or to ask any questions if they can. And so we spend a little bit of our time every week maintaining, reviewing things, possibly going out to people. And we hope to be able to collaborate and to find, of course, to find new products to incorporate in the website. Now, from an architecture and urbanism point of view, of course, finally this wide range of possibilities is quite exciting compared to the previous kind of dichotomy. Either, 10 years ago it was just a gas boiler, so it was not even a question. And now it's mostly between a gas boiler and a heat pump. But if we have heat batteries into the mix, then we can start imagining kind of geographies of policy. And there's been, for quite some time, a research on how renewable energies could be the base of civilization in Europe, for example, that has so many different climates. If we were to have an efficient grid connecting north and south of Europe. So the OMA, together with others, has been working for, I think, about 20 years now on a map of the energy geographies in Europe, where the UK is between the Isles of Wind and the tidal states, whereas, of course, the south of Europe is called Solaria, of course, solar energy. And the same approach and the same concept would work in the UK as well, where we have a northern grid separated from the southern grid, and of course consumption in the south, production in the north, and so we could imagine, for example, policies that incentivize heat batteries north of the divide between north and south, so that the north could have ways of storing the energy that they're producing and avoid curtailment, which is a whole different argument and topic, while we are improving, of course, the connection between north and south. And in similar ways, I mean, it would be interesting to see how what technologies could be incentivized in different areas based on their impact on pollution, based on their impact on the energy grid. And therefore, I think that there's kind of a geographic and policy conversation to be had. So here, for example, we were suggesting things like these. Another way is to see that this, of course, is pollution. Where there's more polluted areas, there could be more incentives for flats, for example, and so on. And our next steps, of course, this website has been built by us, maintained by us. We're only 5 5 or 6. And of course, we're looking for more and more partners. We'd like this information to be shared and possibly to be taken on by someone with more manpower, or to collaborate with others with more manpower. We are, of course, using these technologies in our projects, and where we can, we've started the monitoring results. Of course, data is paramount. But yeah, we are in conversations with the GLA, with Leti. Of course, today we've been representing this here. And my, of course, hope is that in the near future, all of this information will be under a bigger umbrella that helps navigate people throughout the kind of retrofit and in improving the sustainability of their homes and businesses. And that this conversation will become more mainstream and more accepted. And of course, I'm here, so if there's any suggestions, or if anyone wants to help us or collaborate, I would love it. And yeah, I'll stop here and think get some questions.
I think there are a couple in the chat, if you just wanted to have a quick look, that came through while you were speaking. I'm not sure if there are anything that you wanted to touch on there.
Yes, so let me go from the oldest. In Wales, all new homes for social rent have been off gas since 2021. Existing social homes are being converted, but the funding makes it possible to address thousands a year as opposed to tens of thousands. What are the stats for private homes? How many are being converted per year? How many should be converted? Where is the financial assistance? Okay, so last 2 years ago, 2022, the government, who had just announced that they wanted to install 600,000 heat pumps, I think they got to 60,000, so which is a tenth. Last year, the data I could find for 2023 was even worse, was 36,000 heat pumps. And I say heat pumps because all other technologies are negligible. So I think I mentioned it very quickly in the at this pace, it would take like 400 years to replace all the boilers with and now where is then rightly say that all new builds are off gas, and that's also current policy. And I think that new builds, luckily from this point of view, not from the general consumption, but from the point of view of being the energy engines and their emissions, they will not be a problem. They are relatively easy. Like everyone who kind of designs knows that from a performance point of view, a new build is very easy. It's relatively easy compared to a retrofit. That's I think it's more complex. So that's not the issue. The issue is with the current building stock. That is, the UK's building stock is among the worst in Europe. It's very leaky, it's very old, often has no cavities, and so and that's where I think we have to be pragmatic and identify solutions that do not depend on deep retrofits. Now, how many should be converted? Yeah, well, the government says 600,000 a year. We know that we're replacing 1.7 million boilers a year. So, I mean, the more, the better. And of course, we don't have 1.7 million. We don't have enough people, professionals, designers, and products to replace 1.7 million, to retrofit 1.7 million buildings a year. But I mean, the more, the better. And so the more solutions, the better. And where's the financial assistance? Well, at the moment, the financial assistance is just focused on heat pumps, which I think is a bit of a distortion. So right now there's £7,500 incentives to install a heat pump. And I think, as often happens, this incentive will benefit mostly the kind of medium, the richer people, and will instead not benefit the poorest people who need the most assistance in replacing if they are to make a transition. So exactly. So people living in a flat cannot install a heat pump. People living in a flat or in a small house on will not have enough money to afford the retrofit for their homes that is required to install a heat pump when it is. Often it isn't. And so yeah, part of No More Gas, part of the purpose of No More Gas is to expand the range of incentives to not only cover heat pumps, but also cover infrared heating or heat batteries. And many of these companies that we, actually all the companies that we show on the website have a strong base in the UK. So any incentives would be incentives to growing kind of technologically advanced British companies that would definitely bring a return to the government. And so I see that you're right. There should be much more financial assistance for this kind of transition. Is this? I hope this, Elfed, does this answer your question? Do you want to?
Me? Yeah, thank you, David. I don't know if you can hear me. But in my job, I work for a company. We build thousands of new homes, but also retrofit thousands of new homes. And yeah, you're right. You know, what I've just said is that when the grants came in a few years ago, we saw the cost of heat pumps go up by approximately the same amount of grant assistance, which is a joke, obviously, and it's just people cashing in. It's basically because the supply chain isn't strong enough to, and therefore people were making money, which kind of defeats the object, I suppose. But so I guess I like all your answers, very thoughtful, and thank you for your presentation. Is it? I do make a point about sharing those. A lot of I totally admire what you're doing as a practice. And it's definitely going to feed into what's going on, but there's so much going on, and sometimes it would be good if it was a little bit more sort of joined together. So yeah, I'll get in touch with you and make you put you into contact with some people I know in Wales who are doing something nationally to try and promote information to private landlords, private owners. So anyway, thank you very much.
That would be great. Yeah. We've had conversations with Letty, who were kind of building instead of a similar platform to help people identify the right type of heat pump or how to get to a heat pump, so the two would integrate quite well. We're very, very open. I mean, I love No More Gas, but it's also a lot of work for us. So if someone were to take it on soon. Yes, no, thank you. You're right, though. The incentives always create market distortions. I think it will ease in time if the government is, or the future government is kind of brave enough to confirm the incentives and possibly improve the way that they are distributed. But there are no incentives for a heat battery. That is often the only solution for a leaky ground floor flat, and I think that's not fair. Bernardo, is this design tool available to all? Yeah. Yes. It's just yes. So No More Gas is for free. Anyone can go use it. Send the comments, please. Yes, so Simon says, on the available heat store technologies, I just want to mention SunAmp 2, which produces heat stored in quarter size of the HWC, designed to fit in most houses. Yeah, that's true. So SunAmp is usually connected to ground source heat pump or to air source, to other sources to produce energy. It's a heat storage. Yes, I think it does not have the same. It has characteristics that are slightly different from the TEPIO and other heat batteries, in that it kind of is connected to other forms of energy production. So then Ian McKay asks, can you use a heat battery without any form of boiler? Yes, you can. Yes, you can, and as long as there is a double tariff. So you can use an energy battery if you need to heat hot water and heating up to about 110, 120 square meters, depending on how well insulated the property is. Beyond that, you want to pair it with a pressurized cylinder. And it's, of course, the closer you get to the threshold of 110 to 130, the more you risk kind of having to charge it at peak times. So for as long as there are tariffs with different types of prices, you can install just that, and it will cleverly use the most advantageous tariff. Ian, I don't know if that answers your question.
Hi, yes, it does answer my question. Thank you very much. Yeah, we've got a couple of projects whereby the space issues are very tricky with heat pumps, getting the pipes into the property, that sort of thing. So heat batteries we've been having a look at. I had heard, talking about sun amps just a moment ago, that sun amps, which uses phase change, the temperature of that phase change is a bit high for most heat pumps. I don't know if that's something you've got any knowledge about.
So no, I've never installed a sun amp. I've looked at it for several cases where we already had a heat pump, whereas the heat batteries we were discussing, they are just connected directly to electricity, to the grid. There's no other means of producing heat. They're just heating up through direct connection to the grid, and then it just becomes a case of when are you drawing electricity and how much it costs. And the advantage of these is also that the piping and the connections is very similar to a boiler. So for the retrofit case, it's kind of ideal if you have enough space. They are bigger than a boiler, but if you have enough space, they're kind of an ideal solution to quickly just replace the boiler. What they are is that they're expensive. They cost £5,000. And therefore incentives would be really beneficial there.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure. And in my other life, I'm a trustee on a small charity. We're beginning to look at changing up. So Bob Eden says, we are beginning to look at changing up 4 small rural cottages from back boilers to an obviously better outcome. All electric is feeling favorite as we need to reduce disruption on our long-term tenants. Any thought on this? Okay, Bob. Of course, if it's cottages, again, the obvious solution would be heat pumps because you have space outside. Now, depending on what degree of retrofit you have to achieve to install a heat pump, but there are heat pumps working at higher temperatures. They're less efficient. So I think it really depends on the size of these cottages and whether and the degree of intervention you want to have on them. You say changing up, you mean refurbishing?
We mean replacing. I think that's
replacing, exactly. Well,
yeah.
They're
very tiny cottages. It's a terrace of 4, and there's very little space in them. They have a couple of radiators around within the building, and they are. I mean, it's rural, so it's currently the only options we would have otherwise would be oil or, yeah, scream and tear your hair out. The other thing I've got to do is persuade the other trustees that this is the best answer to go forward with. So, is your piece of software going to help me?
Well, I think it will advise you. It will kind of direct you towards either a heat battery or infrared heating. Infrared heating requires a little bit of retrofit in the sense that if you don't want to see it, you have to replaster ceilings.
Yeah.
The heat battery requires a bit more space than a boiler. So if space is absolutely premium, it might be a bit of a problem. If it's 4, there are larger heat batteries. If you have space outside, there are larger heat batteries that can heat a lot more space, much bigger and therefore quite efficient. That could work for you if there's space, if there's a lot of space outside.
Yeah. And that could be very interesting. Where can I find this?
Why don't you write to me, and I'll direct you towards this other because the rural case is probably the one that we have not shown on the website, and we should do that because there are more. But yeah, if you write to me, I will direct you to a couple of possible options, and gladly.
That would be great. Thank you very much.
My pleasure, really. And Stephanie Dale says, can we use normal wet radiators with the heat battery? The answer is yes. Yes, you can. So the idea with the heat battery again is that you just remove the boiler, a few changes to the piping, but just where the boiler is, and but nothing of the system needs replacing, and therefore it's the least invasive solution. The only difference is that the only things you have to check with one of these is they weigh a lot. They weigh about, I think, 400 kilos. So access has to be relatively easy, and that they're slightly larger. They're larger than a boiler. So you need a little bit of space, a little bit more than the usual boiler cover. It's like a washing machine. So if it's in a kitchen, you would kind of replace a unit with one of these and save some space on the wall. But yeah, that's the.
And can I just add to that? So if you had, I was looking at it for a project, and it's basically a listed building. So it's just the heat pumps are out. I'm not, we weren't allowed to do anything to the fabric. So basically everything became just not a viable option. And when I'd looked at that Zeb battery, and when I kind of gone on it, it said, oh, I don't think it's suitable because of the size of the property. There's just basically too much heat demand on it.
Yes, you can install two.
You can install two. Yeah, maybe that would have been a better idea. But could you do that have a heat battery for your heat demand, and then have something else for your water demand? Your hot water demand.
Yes. So if you go on the yes, exactly. So Nomoregas will tell you if it's more than 110 square meters, or if it's extremely leaky, you can pair that heat battery with a clever hot water cylinder that also heats directly from the grid, like the Mixergy that's also shown on the website, on the platform. So
is that?
Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. I was going to say, is that going to end up being, apart from the install cost, is that going to end up being really expensive to run? So that's obviously also the question that everybody asks me.
Yeah, no, of course, no. It's absolutely a fair question. The question is, on one side, how efficient are these? What kind of tariffs you can get? Because if both of them can charge when costs are low, then it's not too expensive. In some cases, the TEPIO people said that they were even more efficient than a boiler. I think it would be more expensive than gas right now, especially right now that gas prices have gone down. A conversation is to be had as to what will be the evolution of energy prices in the future, with more and more renewable energies coming online in the UK. At some point, the cost of electricity should be decoupled from the cost of gas. Right now, they are connected by law, and it's slightly different in Spain, for example. So I think it's very likely that in the next 4 or 5 years, the cost of electricity for heating for homes will be a lot lower, especially off peak times. So it's an exercise of looking into the future a little bit. But if you can have an Octopus electric car, a fee energy price that is low when there's little demand, is low at night, then both the heat battery and the clever hot water cylinder will charge when the prices are low, and they basically both act as batteries. And another thing you can do is to have infrared heating in some rooms. If you still don't have enough, or you don't want to have 2 of these TEPIOs, you can have infrared in some rooms, which would typically be bedrooms, which are the ones that benefit the most from intermittent heating. So you could have them on timers, and you could them kind of heat up the room in the evening before you go to bed, and then keep a lower temperature throughout the rest of the day. That's also a solution. Unfortunately, there's no for properties, the listed properties. That's what I was saying before. Those are the difficult ones.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, so you have to be creative and combine more than one. And of course, with combining more than one system come several headaches and risks of something going wrong. But I think, yeah, that's the solution. And again, on the website, if I imagine this property is, say, 160, 180 square meters.
Yeah, probably something like that. Yeah.
Exactly. So you can either have 2 TEPIOs or 1 TEPIO, one clever, one smart hot water cylinder, and infrared in some areas that are used less.
And do you rely on the manufacturers to tell you that it's going to work, or are you just relying on yourself going that it's going to work? Like, I'm not a heating engineer. I'm an architect. So
yes, of course. So yes, we are relying on so the data that we're providing there is manufacturers, but I mean, for the heat battery, it's a simple energy output. For the infrared, it's much harder to gauge because it's a different type of technology. It's a different feeling of comfort, and that we are testing. So we've tested the infrared in 3 projects already, and our clients are very happy with the comfort that they're getting from it. We have infrared, a different type of infrared, which as I said, it's panels. That's visible panels. That's an easier one. We have it in our office, and we are very, very happy about that as well. We have never had a chance to test the TEPIO, but then again, that's the easy one, because it's the unit of energy output is more easy to calculate, and it's comparable to boilers, so we can gauge that.
Cool. Thank you very much. I just had to answer the door. Thank you.
So Jeff Wood, will ceiling mounted infrared panels keep feet warm under a desk or table? No. So infrared heat panels in the ceiling will not heat the floor under the table, but they will heat the floor just next to the table and the bench and the walls. So in time, the whole room will feel warm. And generally speaking, the feeling of the infrared panel is one of kind of direct heat. You do feel a little bit of the heat on you, but the good thing about it is that it's not heating the air, but the objects, and it's quite uniform around you. So you have kind of nice and moist air that can travel without losing heat, and a comfortable kind of feeling of uniform heat all around you. For example, in our office, we have infrared heating combined with mechanical ventilation with heat recovery, just to kind of reduce the consumption as much as possible. This means that the air does move, but the moving of air does not affect the comfort. Jeff, I don't know if I answered your question.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it does. I think for old people that might be a problem.
Yes.
Old people suffer from cold feet, and I think it may be that if someone is trying to reduce their energy cost and doesn't want the expense of the sort of retrofitting that would be ideal, that whilst an IR panel will certainly keep their body warm, it has to be used very carefully for old people.
I agree. I mean, of course, there's panels that you can fit on the walls at low level, so it can be targeted quite well if you have some time to design the system. There are also infrared underfloor heating systems, which we have installed in a couple of cases. But then again, the the temperature that the floor will reach is never comparable to what you would expect from underfloor heating. It will get to 25, 26 degrees, because the whole point is that it's heating everything. It's just actually to avoid points of high temperature.
Sorry, and what you haven't added into this discussion, I understand it's no more gas, but in the situation where peak costs for electricity go down, there's always the nighttime costs of electricity go down. There's always the possibility of storing some of that in a battery, battery storage, and then using it in conjunction with an IR panel or IR panels.
Correct. That's exactly right.
Okay.
Well,
Okay.
again, that would increase costs for but yes, it is.
Sure.
It is
Yeah.
an option, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the suggestion. Yes, amazing. And Bernardo, is a heat battery basically a more efficient version of an electric boiler because it uses energy at cheaper type? Yes, that's exactly right. Bernardo is asking, is a heat battery simply a more efficient electric boiler? Yes, that's exactly the case. It stores energy when it's cheaper. Whereas, of course, a direct electric boiler has to heat the energy on the spot. And therefore, not only uses energy when it can be more expensive, but also does not have the thermal mass of a heat battery, which is composed of concrete and metal. It just stores the heat a lot more efficiently. And therefore, yeah. So I think it's the difference. The difference is considerable, I think. And then Ian McKay, the point needs to be made that if you can get rid of a gas connection, you also get rid of one standing charge, which can be a high proportion of your utility bill. Yeah, it's true. It's absolutely true. I mean, my clients love it when they finally kind of have abolished their standing charge with gas, and there's one less bill, one less meter, one less relationship with a company that can overcharge you or kind of call you. There's also less risk from carbon monoxide and all sorts. So you're absolutely right. There is an advantage there as well. And can heat batteries be used in conjunction with PV panels? Absolutely, yes. Like Jeff was saying, you could even have a combination of the heat battery and more batteries to never have to go to the grid with a heat battery when the prices are high, even if you have to kind of charge up more than once. So there are yes, we can become kind of more and more creative here. Let's say that the main scope and brief for Nomoregas was to identify solutions that are easy to implement for the most wide range of people that simply think that replace a boiler, the easiest thing to do is of course to put a new one in. And if there is just 1 minute of thought in between the two, and let's say in just 10% of the cases another solution comes in, that's already a great victory. And there are graphene underfloor heating systems available. This comes from Elfed. Yes,
I've been approached by a company based in Wales actually who use graphene, which has got incredible conductivity properties to provide a non-wet sort of underfloor heating system. So I'm not recommending it. I just need to know more about it. And we have been installing radiant heating panels into some of our recent homes, and we're going to be monitoring the performance and the bills and the comfort levels of those homes. We've only done a small amount, mindful of the fact that it may not be as good as the manufacturer's claims, but we're building a certain level of confidence in the use of that. We don't have the ability to build a large experimental house in a multi-million-pound hangar, so we've got to try sort of different ideas or speak to other people who tried these ideas out and gather data and monitoring information. I think
I saw there was Rod Davis was among the Possibly. Rod, are you there?
This
No,
is a reminder. Do homework.
sorry. Yes, we have. So in one case, there was one client who was concerned about not having enough heating under the table, the dining table, and it was suggested to put some infrared heating at low level in the wall just next to it. But in the end, we opted for a no because we thought it wasn't necessary, because of course these are not very old people, and but the result is still very comfortable. But yeah, the question of the feet is extremely important for different ages, different degrees of comfort. The question with the graphene is whether it's more efficient than direct electric, because the advantage of infrared is that it's supposedly more efficient compared to the amount of energy that we require to heat a space. The claim is that it's more or less 3 or 4 times more efficient compared to direct electric. Now, like you said, verifying that claim is difficult. Am I right in my saying? So Sam, hi Sam, that all heat pumps need a hot water tank. Yes, you are right. Yeah, the heat pumps will not have the capacity to feed a shower on the spot. So you always need a hot water tank. Yes. Whereas instead, if you're ever working on a very small project like 110, 120 square meter flat, a heat battery will cope with demand up to that size. Beyond that, even a heat battery will be better off with a hot water tank. Simon asks about air-to-air heat pumps. In our own house, we trialed it, combined with low voltage underfloor heating, and it provides instant space heating, ideal for open plan spaces. Daikin are now producing an external unit with 5 internal units for individual rooms. It is a viable, yes. So yeah, Simon is saying that it's a viable option to heating radiators. Yes. Although in that case, of course, you have to discuss. Of course, we're talking about a relatively invasive intervention, because you'd have to do piping for each unit and then ducting. You'd have a single unit for each room, and of course, you need a space outside for a heat pump. But yeah, among the heat pump options, yes, of course, air to air is also an option. Then Simon, I would imagine that you are heating the water with a hot water tank, plus you have this low voltage electric underfloor heating.
The hot water is still on the oil boiler.
I see.
We sort of tried the air-to-air heat pumps in one large open plan room and another where it was very high. And of course, it's brilliant in both of those. I mean, it would work in other rooms too, but that's where we've got it at the moment. But yeah, you need, if you're doing air to air, you need something else for the hot water. But then you're saying that direct heating could work for the hot water. So
yes, the heat battery could work for the hot water. Yeah. Yes. You could do that as well. Yes, but I think if it's just for the hot water, probably a mixergy tank. In your case, you would combine your air-to-air with a mixergy tank or with another hot water cylinder, and you would store the hot water when you need it for a shower. You already have it there, and that also acts as a battery, because it does charge when electricity is cheaper. And in terms of consumption and costs, how have you found the air-to-air heat pump?
I haven't done those calculations. Sorry,
But
what really strikes me is, of course, that it's only heating to 30 degrees, whereas an air to water is having to heat a lot hotter to heat radiators.
Yeah, you're right.
We've got the underfloor is heating to just 24 degrees, and the air to air is to, well, the thermostat's set for at 19, but the air comes out at about 30, I think. So it's all avoiding going into those high temperatures where heat pumps become less efficient.
Totally, you're absolutely right. Yes, but yeah, I think that's the beauty of several different cases, several different people, several different technologies. But yeah, if there is one, I think if there's one message that we should kind of try and get out, is that if anything, one should replace the boiler with something electric. Like if you do nothing at all to the fabric, to the nothing, even still carry on using your like 6-cylinder car, please replace the boiler, because that's gonna stay there for 15 years. You can't change your mind very easily. And we should find ways to get everyone so that everyone should be able to afford an alternative to a gas boiler. And yes, carry on experimenting. So Jeff, the heat battery may be very interesting for old non-condensing boilers which run at 75% efficiency in existing internal properties as an easy replacement. Exactly that. Yes, exactly. That's the easiest replacement. I mean, if the boiler is on the ground floor or in the cellar, fantastic. If you manage to get the heat battery in there, it's the easiest solution. And I think, given that, it should be available to more people. And so please, guys, please try and use Nomoregas. I'm sure you'll find a million things that need fixing or that can be improved. And if anyone wants to collaborate, or if there's anyone we should speak to, if you want to try one of these systems in your house, and we can introduce you to the people who do it. Anything is hopefully useful. And nothing. I think if there are no other questions, we can leave it there.
Yeah, we've gone a few minutes over, but I think everyone was so engaged in asking questions that it's fine. And it's always really great. It's kind of always really great to see almost when it goes over time a bit, because everyone's just really interested in the subject matter and wants to ask all these questions and get into conversation. So thank you everyone for joining in and for asking questions and for being really engaged in this subject. And thank you so much for the presentation. It was really fantastic. Yeah, thank you everyone. Remember, feedback form is coming out. Please do fill it in and get it back to us, and tell us how much you enjoyed this session, because I can definitely see some of you did. And we'll be sending out the presentation and chat transcript and a copy of the recording as well. So if you missed anything, or are there any questions you want to sort of go over and listen to and hear the answers again, you will be able to. If you if you enjoyed today's session and are not already, please do consider joining the Green Register. As well as these sort of Twilight talk sessions, we also have quite a lot of paid sessions, and you get a discount for being a member. So please do consider joining us if you enjoyed today. Other than that, enjoy the rest of your evening, and we hope to see you at a future event for the Green Register. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you.
Join the Green Register, please.